Hey folks, we just got done seeing the Avengers, and here we are to talk about it. My name's Kyle Henderson.
I'm Rich Moore. Justice is served.
We're from the pages. There were definitely some strong points, some weak points, of course, but so the real basic premise of the entire movie is the Avengers are hunting down Loki's scepter, which, if you remember from Avengers 1, was something Loki was using to mind control people in order to search Earth for the Tesseract. So they finally find it in the opening scene, and it's all big actions. It's explosions from like the first minute on, and the explosions don't really ever stop, actually. But
rarely.
Yeah, rarely. But they eventually retrieve the staff, and Tony Stark is doing what he does best, which is dicking around and exploring with this thing. And in it, he finds some sort of blueprint pattern for an AI intelligence thing.
Mysterious bit.
Yeah, it's like we're genuinely a little confused on where Step A kind of led into Step Ultron, but him and Banner had been talking, and they're like, "Oh, the Ultron project." They just name dropped that and shit, and cue a really shitty nerd montage, and ultimately they're able to take from the staff this sort of AI that awakens itself, and it is Ultron.
And there's your supervillain.
Yeah, exactly. And there's
he's
your
very
supervillain.
supervillain.
He's born. He's confused. He's scared. He's talking to Jarvis in the beginning, and then he kind of kills Jarvis in a brilliant display of holographics. Like, it was like cool. He gave us
it was just a representation, man.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, I'm happy at least he went into Photoshop and gave us that, rather.
We did get that. I liked it. I thought it was a cool touch.
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was good to see. It was good for that like visual representation, because it's hard to like kind of lawnmower man that shit.
That's where the movie shines the most, I think, is visually.
Oh yeah, visually, like they don't pull out any stops. You know, this movie was beautiful from opening scene to last. Everything looked organic. You know, honestly, I think my biggest complaint about what looked good was there are points when fighting Ultron needed to be practical effects, and he wasn't. So it was a little like like you could obviously tell Captain America was punching at like a green ball floating, and like,
or some guy on stilts.
Yeah. Like that was a little bit too much. But overall, every character they had their own unique style to them and whatnot. Black Widow was arbitrarily just like a 50s pinup who then got sweet LED lights that didn't really do anything.
She had the Widow's bite.
They never really showed it though in the movie. She's got the Cali sticks that like light up
during the fight.
No, she put like the Cali sticks. They never really show any like shock punches.
I thought she was doing shock punches.
Nah,
you see her arms lighting up and stuff.
But like her shit's lit up the whole time. But like she pulled out like these sticks, and they're like.
We need to watch this at least 4 more times.
Yeah, we do. So. Ultimately, stuff happens. Scarlet Witch gets in everybody's mind. The team falls apart because it's an Avengers movie.
Deus Ex Witch.
Yeah.
Deus Ex Wanda.
And then another Deus Ex happens. Everybody gets together. They all go fight Ultron. And then maybe they save the day. Maybe some people die. Who knows? Go see it.
I thought the movie had a great look of a superhero movie. Mm-hmm. I thought they'd done the best job so far on that. I thought all the ridiculous costumes and everything looked totally great. The 12-year-old me was clapping his hands and jumping up and down inside the whole movie. The fights were amazing. Mm-hmm. The special effects were shining. Everything looked really cool, and it was a fun action movie.
Yeah. I like how one of my favorite things have actually been through the whole cinematic experience has been their costumes, and every single one, all their costumes kind of seem that they keep evolving and changing. You know, yes. Captain America's keeps getting a little bit tighter, more body armor-esque.
It's getting closer to that Steve Rogers Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, it's getting closer to that, but I like that style. I was happy with it, and I like how in the Winter Soldier, when he was doing the Black Ops stuff, it was navy blue, dark blue, and white, and that was it.
Right.
Then he had to go steal his old costume back, and from there he kind of kept the brighter blue, the white and the red, and like he really shone and whatnot. And then he took his helmet off enough times that he looked fine. I liked the way the Hulk looks, how they actually gave him pants. Like he has special growing pants.
Hulk pants. He's stretchy pants.
Yeah, he's got stretchy pants.
Hulk stretchy pants.
They invested in Spanx for him, which was nice.
There you go.
You know, and then like Iron Man's armor, which is always evolving and always changing. It looks good. It's always aesthetically pleasing to see.
It should always change a little bit. It does in the comics. It should in the movies too.
No, exactly.
It always change a little bit, and I'm not gonna like every single iteration of it, but. I'm down.
Yeah, like he's
I enjoy nods to
tinkering.
previous ones.
Yeah, he's constantly tinkering, and it's a good visual representation of that.
That's cool.
And then in stark contrast to that, you have Thor, whose costume hasn't changed at all.
Right.
Sometimes in combat, he gets the
a little bit.
He gets
He changed a little bit from like Thor.
He gets like the scale mail.
Yeah, he's got the sleeves.
Sometimes he gets the scale mail sleeves, but that's it.
It's funny because that's one of the few examples of the movie character actually changing to look more like the comic book character, which is kind of abnormal these days, because normally what they'll do is they make a hit movie, and then all the characters in the comic books all of a sudden have a costume
absolutely.
from the movie.
Captain America
because it's recognizable, and it's a smart way to sell more things, and people are going to notice, oh, that's the guy I know. He doesn't look different. He doesn't look weird. Maybe they'll buy it.
But like Thor's costume is so perfect for who he is. It's hard to change it up.
Yeah.
Like they tried in the '90s, and that's like we're talking about
everybody in the '90s. Everybody got spikes and chains. And
everybody got spikes
lots
and
of
chains
pouches
and lost all their sleeves.
And lots of
they
pouches.
lost large portions of shirt. But like I always liked the way Thor looks. I actually did like the way Black Widow looked, even though I was ragging on her like LED lights. She was still visually.
I was just glad she didn't have the Captain America 2 Oompa Loompa tan.
Yeah, everybody was.
Other than that, no, the movie was beautiful, and that was really the high point for me. What was your favorite part?
My favorite point was Ultron. I loved Ultron in this, man. Like, I mean, he was so megalomaniacal in a way that could, like, he was just he postured and he gesticulated.
He was such a damn supervillain, wasn't he?
He was such a supervillain. The only thing I wish is there was a scene where he was talking to one of the heads of the Ultron body, like when after some of his allies had abandoned him, and if he was just sitting there like complaining, like why, like Horatio, wherefore, what's so funny
working
now?
the mouth, talking back to himself.
There's this like great like very iconic image of Ultron sitting on like a throne, and he's like talking to another Ultron
head, yeah.
And like that's a great visual that I would love to have seen. But something they don't do well in the movie is show that Tony Stark made Ultron. So we get a lot of Ultron's personality, and we kind of know outside of the movie elements. Which I guess on a meta level, we understand that Tony Stark made Ultron, and so Ultron has a lot of Tony Stark's personality. That's where all the quipping comes from, where all the talk, the way he talks and the way he acts.
And part of it is that Ultron is completely insane. He's born broken. Yeah,
he's born broken, but he's also like justified in how he's trying to do it. And I'm not saying he is justified, but ultimately, like that's what it is,
I mean, when I say Ultron's insane, I mean it doesn't always make sense, and he doesn't have to. Like that character is made that way, and I'm okay with that. It's fine, And they made him a little more mirthful in the movie, like a little more.
That's silly. The part that's like
they made
Tony
him crazier. They made him crazier, and I was okay with that. That was a fundamental change to the character that I was definitely cool with.
The insanity really came through when one of his allies left him, and he was just like, you heard deep human emotions come from a robot when he's like, please don't do this.
Yeah.
And like that got me. That was a little sad,
Yeah.
So Ultron was like, he's my favorite. He's absolutely my favorite villain so far, except maybe the Red Skull. But that's because I just love a fucking monologue.
The Red Skull, yeah, he's a monologuer.
Like, it's hard for me, man.
Ultron's in the comics is a big monologuer too. He doesn't do too much of it in the movie. He doesn't do too much monologue.
He has enough exposition, and he's like explaining a story because he has this, like, first he has to explain it to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, then he's explaining it to Tony Stark, then he's explaining it to Dr. Cho, and then like he's kind of like
he gets his moment in the beginning when he's half assembled.
Yeah, he gets his moment in the beginning when he's just like talking through the suit. So now
it's a great scene.
I liked it. I loved the visual because the face was broken up and it was very classic Ultron with the big,
And I loved it. And I loved doing the whole reaction shot for the whole crew. And everybody was like,
"What the fuck?"
See the birth of the supervillain.
Yeah. Now we want to talk about our least favorite parts, and for me, it was Ultron.
And there are some.
Yeah, Ultron is. I loved him. He was so good, but fuck me sideways, did they screw him up? Like, they don't explain why he is the way he is. They like, why does he talk? Why does he feel he needs to build a suit of armor around the world? They hint at it and they mention it, but they don't really they don't ever flat out come out and say it. And in the opening bit, when Banner and Tony Stark are like going through the shitty training montage of deciphering the code in the scepter to make Ultron, basically, there could have been a lot there explaining why Ultron was the way he was, like, the Ultron program, which is based off of Tony Stark's, brain algorithms and stuff. And it's like, he was originally Jarvis, which is based off of my own brain. And it's me trying to basically make a second version of myself because I'm so fucking busy. He's wearing Mark 43 in the, he's up to 43rd armor. Those are $1 billion fucking dollars a piece, So, and then there's like Veronica in space and shit, which I couldn't imagine what that costed. And he postured too much, and there's a lot of holes in what he could have done. A friend of mine actually brought this up to my attention, rather, and in the movie, something happens and stops him from being able to launch the nukes, prevents him from being able to Skynet, pretty much. But what prevents him from setting off the alarms on the North Korean defense computer? Like, oh, South Korea is attacking, and then they, like, what's preventing him from faking those alarms?
Nothing, but
nothing.
Maybe
they don't explain
it's
that.
all one code in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, they're just
once
like,
you break that one code, or you get nothing.
Yeah, they're
it's
just
all
like
one code.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, Jarvis is covering all of it. You know, Jarvis is taking care of all of it. But all they mention are the nukes.
Jarvis is keeping him from doing anything too bad.
Yeah, and it's like, that's so like. They could have done something. Either he wasn't really in the internet, you know, he was kind of part of his. He like had his own internet, like that. That's why, like, he had.
It was superfluous. It really was.
Yeah, and it was like a little like, come on, we all know where it's going. We've seen the movies, you know. Like like I'm pretty certain the Terminator movies are like, just regardless. He also like, at points he's too comic booky, and he's not terrifying enough because he's too funny. My second biggest complaint about this entire movie, and it's been my biggest complaint about Joss Whedon, actually, it's same way in Avengers, same way in Avengers 2. Every character is written exactly the same. The heroes, the villains, the side characters, you know, everybody okay? No, I'm not. Like, you're a name. He did not have a name.
Sense of humor,
he didn't have a name, but everybody had the same sense of humor. Everybody has the same quippy one-liners, and it defeats the sort of the terror that's supposed to come from Ultron. Ultron's supposed to be fucking unstoppable, you know? He scares the shit out of everybody. But that doesn't really translate well. So there's no sense of like of worry, of fear. You know, this supervillain doesn't feel very super.
Yeah, and that's also one of my big complaints. Was I thought he just got carried away with the one-liners. There was just too many of them.
There's way too many.
I mean, Baron Strucker shouldn't be like cracking jokes.
Oh,
he's an evil Nazi Hydra. Satan claw wielding bastard. He's not going to crack jokes in front of Captain America. And there were times where it kind of did pull me out of the gravity of the scene and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I know it's a fine line to walk, but I think he did a poor job on it in this.
He did, and that's actually one of the things I had with Avengers 2 is like a lot of the quips that come out of nowhere are just like.
Some of them are funny.
Some of them are
I don't hate them all, but just the sheer volume of the jokes that came out at the wrong times.
Precisely, yeah.
It was a weak point.
It interrupts the flow.
Yeah.
You know, you're building up a lot of tension and a lot of anger and a lot of like violence and like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Right.
And then like quippy one-liner that wasn't even that good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always picking up after you boys. That line was dumb as shit.
Right.
We didn't need that. That could have been three more.
That happened to her the first one.
Yeah, that could have been 3 more seconds
she gets
of him
the
punching.
worst one.
Yeah, she always gets the worst one. Because it's like, she's fucking Natasha Romanoff.
Yeah, I know.
She's ex-KGB. You know?
She does have a black sense of humor in the comic. I'll give you that, but it's a little different that way.
But none of that is a black sense of humor.
Even bringing up breaking up the flow brings me to my least favorite part of the movie, because I think a lot of the problems are symptomatic of this, and it seems like he just tried to fit way too much into this movie, and it makes the movie choppy. I think he cut down a lot of stuff that he really wanted to leave in. I thought he tried to make too much movie at once. And I thought that all those little missing pieces that were probably filmed and cut out, if we were to watch it like that, the movie might be 4 hours long, but we might like it better.
Yeah, we're going to get a more coherent story.
Right. And
it definitely felt very jumpy, and it felt sort of a lot of the points in the movie, like there's the sort of the Thor subplot, and then the Civil War hints,
and the Hawkeye
and
family.
the Hawkeye family.
I hated the Hawkeye family. That was a low point for me
in the
movie.
And then like the Banner Black Widow subplot. There were too many subplots, and they weren't given enough time. Right. So they needed to but what they didn't do was cut them all out. If they had completely cut out the Thor subplot and just like explained another thing about the Vision, you know, they're like, okay, that would be fine.
And there are plot holes in this movie that are there.
Sure,
there are plot holes there, and I think that's probably part of the reason why. I think it's because Joss Whedon's a pretty smart guy, and he's usually pretty on point with that kind of stuff. And I think maybe some of the things that end up as plot holes were probably intended to be filled in and just got cut out.
Like I was saying earlier about the Skynet thing, you know, about like why didn't he just release sarin gas?
Right.
You know? It's like
there's a lot of ways to kill the world.
They just don't. The only thing they mention are the nukes.
The nukes,
and it's like
very very old school.
Yeah,
very movie cliche.
It's very cliche, and it's kind of lame. And like even if they had literally just not mentioned it at all, he's in the internet.
Left that out. He was
left it out.
He was going to drop Terrence. Was it Slovenia or whatever it was? Sokovia.
Yeah.
He was going to
otherwise known as totally not Lavaria.
He was going to hammer the gods of the earth. That is awesome supervillainy.
Oh, that's such a
Bond villains
plot.
aspire to this shit.
That's exactly. That is such a Bond villain-esque like plot line, you know, and that's fucking great. And I loved it.
I also really dislike the Hawkeye family, and I think one of the reasons I really dislike it was, first of all, it's just it doesn't serve much of a purpose for me. I didn't really like Hawkeye that much before, and I still don't. It didn't do too much for me to humanize the character or anything like that. Maybe it should have, and I'm just an evil bastard. But I like the Ultron. But when he does it, I think he does it with the purpose of throwing us that red herring. Hawkeye is going to die. And that was way too much time to spend in a movie to do that.
Yeah, like they spent
way too much time.
If they had right, so like they made it too obvious. Because I remember leaning over to my girlfriend while we were watching it, and I'm like, Hawkeye's gonna die. They're spending too much time on him. And so in the end, when they don't kill Hawkeye, which that's all we're gonna say about it, when they don't kill Hawkeye, I'm like, oh man. But then I'm not upset that this other character died because I was expecting Hawkeye to die. I was upset because I really liked that character.
Right. See, I mean, for me, though, it was different since I'm not a huge fan of the character anyway. For me, you know, having that device set as a red herring, it's a lousy device. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I immediately, first I think you're doing something that sucks, and then you're doing it just to trick me into thinking that you suck. It just doesn't work for me. I didn't like the idea.
As an idea, it can work well, but they were very in your face about it, you know. It was very it was more sledgehammer, less feather, which is what they needed, you know. And also, it's a technique that Joss Whedon has used before, so anybody who's a fan of his work is just like, we've seen this before, you know. And I've gone on record on several rants, drunken and sober, about I don't like Joss Whedon, and I don't like him, and I feel like that's kind of like my biggest problem with a lot of these with this movie right now.
I do like Joss Whedon.
I just don't. I like some of the stuff he's done. I loved his X-Men.
He wrote my favorite X-Men comics.
Yeah, the Astonishing was great and whatnot. But then he's sort of like, you can kind of see his ego in some of the stuff that he does, and he wants to be this strong. Supposedly he writes strong female characters, but then Black Widow got locked up. You know, which to be fair, she got locked up, and then like. You know,
even Leia had a chain on it at one point. She's still badass.
Leia then choked fucking Jabba the Hutt to death. You know?
That's right, she did.
But she Black Widow made a fucking radio, which is sweet. But Banner should have come down there, and Black Widow should have just been like, "Oh, cool, I couldn't get up there." Like that's it. She'd already fucking gotten herself out and taken apart half a dozen fucking robots. You know, that's what Black Widow should have done because she's fucking Black Widow. But she's this strong character who, in the beginning, is some random 1950s pinup. Bartender who, by the way, I just like to point this out. She's completely dressed like your classic pinup bombshell that they would put on the side of like B-52s, right?
No problem there.
Yeah, okay, that's how she's dressed up. Yeah, she's flirting with Bruce Banner, not the guy who's literally from 1942.
All right, so you think Cap should have been all over it?
No, what I'm saying is Black Widow.
They do make an illusion. Like, how do you know?
I'm saying is Black Widow.
Maybe she went for Cap first.
That's which is why Jeremy Renner's justified in saying she's a slut. She's trying to bang everybody.
She's been mind whipped, man. It's not her fault.
Yeah, sure, that's it. It's not her fault. Whatever. She's a grown ass woman. If she wants to bang ranks on the Avengers, she's allowed to. So, they're all pretty. Like,
what do you think of the movie as far as an adaptation from comics? How do you think they translated it from one medium to the next?
I think what's happening is we're in an interesting part now in the cinematic universe where we're having Captain America, we're having Thor, we're having Hulk, Black Widow, Iron Man. We're having them have such established characters that, like right now, Tony Stark in the comics is a villain. He's the superior Iron Man, and he's like crazy and shit, you know. And he's got all this other stuff going on with him. But in the movie, he's himself. Right. So I think what we're going to see is an interesting divergence that we're seeing in this, where we don't see a lot of the original story elements of Ultron. You know, Ultron was originally created by Hank Pym.
The daddy issue thing.
The daddy issue thing.
That was just the core of the Ultron character in the comics, mostly.
Yeah,
because he was the supervillain of the movie, and that's a totally different role.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. So now, did they pay the original story proper credence? No, because they went so far off of it. You know?
I mean, I wouldn't say, it's not quite faithful to his origin completely or anything like that. But I think they did a good job anyway. And this is one of those moments in it. And I think I used Ultron as an example earlier of when he was a little crazier and they changed the character and he had a different feel. So, similar to how the Kingpin's more human in Daredevil. And I think Daredevil just raised the bar for everything. Actually, me and my friend were talking about that. Just after seeing Daredevil, we expected more from Avengers. Actually, it's kind of a little strange since it's a Netflix TV show.
To be fair, though, I think I mean, you are talking about 13 hours versus 2.5.
Yeah, and
so
I wish Joss Whedon had 13 hours to tell this story. It would have been better. I did.
Or it would have been shown on Fox out of order, and we never would have understood.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, we lost that scene from the trailer. Everybody was speculating was a Wakandan woman.
Yeah.
What we eventually find out, I guess, is the Terrigen mist chamber pool.
It's not Terrigen
rock.
mists.
It's
our
not.
director
I don't
called
know.
it that. I don't think it's that. It's just a thing.
It was just the Oracle. It was just the Oracle pool.
When I saw it again,
Okay.
They literally call it water of sight or something.
Water of sight.
Really close to that.
Apparently, it's something that that had showed up in the comics like once in the 70s or something.
It's one of those
like
obscure things
it's
they
like an
pulled
old
out.
thing. Yeah, it's a really old thing. They dusted off for it.
But there was that woman there that everybody was assuming was a Wakandan woman, and I can't wait for Black Panther. I love Black Panther. It's gonna be awesome.
We got nothing of that.
We get Claw, so we did get a lot of that.
We got Claw, and then
but we never got
Wakanda.
But we never got to Wakanda. We didn't get to see any actual Wakandans. Like I wanted a little more for that. But again, I'm complaining that there was too much in the movie, so I can wait for that.
So, final impressions for right now.
Final impressions are it was a good movie. It wasn't perfect. I liked it a lot. I thought it was fun visually. It was a fun action superhero movie, and I thought it looked better than anything we've seen so far. Besides that, it has some small problems. I thought they tried to squeeze a little too much into the movie, maybe. But overall, I liked it. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all the points that you brought up. They kind of tried a little bit too much. I think that's sort of a symptom of what they're trying to actually do with the cinematic universe, because they're trying to hint at the Thor Ragnarok. They're trying to hint at Black Panther. They're trying to hint at Civil War. They're going to hint at Infinity War. Like, they're building up 5 or 6 movies out of one.
Yeah.
And it might have gotten a little bit too heavy at some points. You know, I think
this is the core movie.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. But I think what they need to do is trust. They need to trust us as viewers to know that this Thor movie is going to come out, to know that Black Panther's coming out. We don't need the name drops or even the beginnings of these characters in these other in Avengers, like in Captain America 2.
Now we don't.
Now we don't. Right? Yeah.
Now we don't. We did before. Like we needed the Thor's hammer at the end of the one movie. And it leads into the next one.
And that was
and they built their house, but I think that house is built now. Like the numbers that they made over the weekend.
If they had done an actual stinger at the end of the movie. Just another thing, actually, for those who are about to go see the movie, there's a stinger about halfway through, but there is nothing at the very post credits end. Okay, just so you know, saving you 5 minutes or whatever. But if that post credit scene, if they actually put say Black Panther coming into, because I think that was actually Wakanda they got into a fight in. Yeah. It was near it. So if it was actually in Wakanda they got into a fight in, and then the scene is Black Panther talking about having to deal with all this insanity going on, that'd be great. That's what we need for the lead into Black Panther.
Right.
Or that's something we need for the lead into Ant-Man or in Thor Ragnarok or something.
Yeah, we're going to talk about more about that next time.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that
a little farther into it.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, thank you again for coming to watch us. Please continue to support us. We could really use the help. Just go ahead and give us a favor. Give us a like, share, subscribe. Find us on social medias. We're going to be on Twitter. We're going to be on Facebook. So by all means, go ahead, come out, support us. Thank you very much. My name is Kyle Henderson.
I'm Rich Moore.
And we're from The Pages. Have a good one.